Okay, so the next two talks is on the battle of the fight, spiritual warfare, and the beauty of the rescue. Which are actually, no man gets out of this life without a battle. No man gets out of this life as a man of God, serving the Lord, without a spiritual warfare. There is an enemy. He's real, and he wants to take us out. I learned something real cool. Actually, I didn't learn it, but actually it was kind of like reinforced to us at the last boot camp. There was a gentleman teaching us on spiritual warfare as well as prayer. He says, we are not more powerful than the enemy, the devil, right? But what we are is we have authority over him. And that comes to the conclusion of, I think about a cop. A cop holds his hand out and stops an 80-ton truck, right? But he doesn't have the power to stop that truck, but he has the authority to do it. And that's what we have as men of God, is we have that authority. So the gentleman who's going to speak is John. John and I known each other for at least a dozen years. John, myself, and Will actually have been in a men's group for 12 years. Okay, and through that men's group is we actually somehow journeyed through this band of brothers. And John's testimony will give you an amazing story on how we all kind of like been transformed through this journey, the band of brothers, and how Christ has restored us. Anyways, I give you John McCready. As I call him, he doesn't like it all the time, but I call him Colonel John McCready. Come on.
Yeah.
Can you call me that? Colonel, yeah.
All right. God is with us. He's never against us. But the devil, he's got a plan for you. He's got a plan for me. Keep your eyes on the devil. Be aware of the real battle against him and his battle against you. I want to talk a little bit about spiritual warfare. I've been around for quite a while. So I'm going to talk about a couple of physical or experiences I've had in situations in life where spiritual warfare has played out. I spent my I grew up first 6 years in East York, East Toronto, and we lived on a cul-de-sac. Back then we called them dead ends. And my older brother and sister, they had lots of friends, but I had none. There were no kids, none, my age in the neighborhood. So I spent my first 5.5 years without any friends. I had a friend of mine that lived in the west end of Toronto. His mother and my mother were friends, but I only saw him once or twice a year. So when my parents finally packed up and moved to a new subdivision in Etobicoke, I started kindergarten there, and I was awestruck. A whole room full of kids my age, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to interact with them. I'd never interacted with groups of kids. So it's funny, or not that funny, but it's interesting is the demon, even at that young of age, gets into your head. So he kept telling me, you'll never fit in. You'll never learn how to play the games they're playing. You'll never learn how to read the books. You know, you'll never even be able to sit around the circle where they listen to the teacher. You'll never be able to do that. I was convinced that I couldn't do that. So even at that young age, he hits you. So when I went to school, I really wasn't that motivated in school, and I listened to the voice of the demon, so that by the time I'd hit grade 4, I really wanted just to kill myself. I was horrible at sports. Nobody had shown me. My dad wasn't a sportsman, and I didn't have a natural inclination for it. So that's where I was. And the enemy grinned. Again, I said I was never motivated by school, and I kind of bounced around a bit. But finally, in 1971, I had finally finished my grade 12, and I presented a very good portfolio to Humber College, and I got enrolled in advertising and graphic arts. So this was the summer. I had enough money to buy a car, so I bought a baby blue and white 1953 Chevy Bel Air. The big model, had the fender skirts, had the big 17-inch steering wheel, had a Cadillac power steering unit, automatic transmission. I had a summer job, so I had money. So that same summer, my sister asked, because I was an amateur photographer, if I would do photography for a friend of hers wedding, which I agreed to. And my payment was I could go to the wedding and have something to eat and a couple of beers. So anyway, when I started the shoot, I first off right away saw the groom's younger sister, and she was gorgeous. and she's a beautiful woman. She's beautiful inside as she was outside. Anyway, I ended up going out with her, and I went out with her about 4 years. But, you know, the enemy, he hates us. And one of the things he hates is he hates anything to do with love. And if you got a young couple in love, man, he gets in there and does as much damage as he can. So he kind of got to me. I can't get into the whole story, but after 4 years, he kind of got in there and did a lot of damage with me. He might have certainly had some influence with her, but the point was, I lost her. So I was overwhelmed with the sense of loss, an avalanche of pain, and the enemy had a field day because he told me for years I was convinced, I bought on into his ideas that what a loser I was, how I'd lost this woman, how I had screwed it all up. And then he also, he condemned me, and he enjoyed it, and he condemned her, and you know, that wasn't fair to her. But after a while, that didn't work because I started to realize where the hits were coming from. I began to realize where the battle was. And I now realize that was him. He got in there, he screwed the works up, and then he just condemned me. I always thought it was me condemning me, but it wasn't me condemning her. I thought it was me condemning her, but it wasn't me condemning her. It was him condemning her. That's what he does to us. So in 1995, Southern Ontario had just come out of a major recession, and during that time my job had vanished. So I was lying in bed one night and I prayed to the Lord and said, you know, I'll go anywhere and do anything you want. Just help me out. Within less than a week, I had a phone call from a headhunter offering me a job in Thunder Bay, as sales office manager for Johnson Controls. So long story short, within a month and a half, I had accepted the job. We sold our house, and we went up on a weekend and bought a house in Thunder Bay, and we started the job. About 9 months later, Johnson Controls closed 21 offices across North America. They called them their peripheral offices. We got rid of them. And Sault Ste. Marie, I think Sudbury and Thunder Bay were closed. So now I didn't have a job. My wife wanted us to go back. I said, no, I'm not running back. Because I told God, look, I'll go anywhere you want. I went to Thunder Bay. I'm kind of waiting for the payback here. So I started my own company, Great Northern Controls. I had a product out of British Columbia. Delta Controls was our supplier. And I went head to head with Johnson Controls and Honeywell. I was working out of my house. So I had picked up a couple of small jobs. And it was funny because they just landed on my lap. And the jobs went well. I didn't have any problems with it. But you know, what I had done is I had stepped out in faith. So what happened next was I secured a very large job, very large for me, worth considerably more than my house was worth, at the Dryden Regional Hospital. And they were adding about an extra third onto the hospital, a new wing, complete with 3 operating rooms. They had patient recovery areas, they had x-ray, examination, diagnostic areas, they had some administration for it. So it was a huge job for me. And what we did was we supplied and installed building automation controls. So we controlled all the heating, air conditioning, ventilation. And then it was all loaded to what's called a front end onto their computer system. And then I also had to create full color graphics for this. So I started the job by myself. I was just by myself, but I subcontracted some electricians to pull the wire. And that's when the problem started. I had a game plan, but I had 6 electricians pulling more wire than I could keep track. They were pulling it faster to keep track. Again, long story short, I had hundreds of wires weaving their way throughout the hospital. And I realized about a third of them were either mislabeled, not labeled, or had been loaded into the wrong area. So I had to go through and find each one of those wires. I would take a little tester, put it one wire way down in the hospital, go all the way upstairs, back into the mechanical room to try and find that wire. So the enemy was laying it on thick, really thick. He had me now. He said, you're going to lose this job. They're going to get you're going to get so far behind, kick you off the job. You're going to be sued into oblivion and lose everything you have and get humiliated. So remember, I had gone out in faith. I made a deal, literally a deal with God, and He came through. So He showed up and He fashioned a sword of determination and calmness in me. It wasn't me. He just took me because I was in panic mode. You know, I can't. We got all this stuff I have to do, and I don't even have the wires marked. So He calmed me down. It wasn't me, and the demon disappeared. All of a sudden, he was gone. Poof. And I finished the job. The job ended up well. It didn't mean we didn't have a lot of difficulties. We didn't have some problems, but the fear was gone. And we finished the job, and the job went well. The customer was happy. As a matter of fact, over the years, we ended up putting that whole hospital under our control. The demon tried to get in 2 or 3 times, but that sword that the Lord had fashioned did its job. Now I've been married now to my wonderful wife for 40 years, and she is also working with the Lord. I'm blessed to have 2 wonderful daughters, a wonderful son-in-law to come, we think, and 4 grandkids, and I pray we're going to have more. Mary Ann's and my faith keeps us on that rugged track towards the light. And Mary Ann's far more socially adept than me, and I believe literally she has a gift of love. Everywhere we go, all our neighbors, everybody likes her. Me not necessarily. But you know what? Every day is still a battle. Every day He looks for ways to disrupt our marriage, disrupt our life, and sometimes it seems He wins because He knows me, and I got the patience of zip, and sometimes He uses that against me. But we are only mortals after all. God gave us a will, and Jesus told us, I have given you authority to overcome the power of the evil one. And believe me, He is real. We need to know that. He's got some nasty tricks up His sleeve, but we can learn to recognize those tricks. But the thing is, if you're going to go on this battle for your heart and you're going to take on the devil, do not do this by yourself. Find a group of men like this. Like Mike has said, we've been together for years. Do not try and do this by yourself. Listen to each other's heartfelt testimonies, and remember we have been given authority to overcome. And again, always remember, the voice of God never condemns.